Have you experienced complacency in the workplace? Are you noticing that your people have a lack of drive? They're just not motivated. They're not engaged. They're not enthusiastic. Well, it's happening across the country. And it's not a shock. We are in the third phase of chaos. We've gone through the great obstacle, the great transition, and here we are in the great new era, which the media is calling the great resignation, but it is not. It is not the great resignation. It is the great new era for business warriors that are willing to fight against complacency and bring that drive back to their people. I just read an article this morning on Yahoo, and it says that U.S. productivity is declining. And employees, they should be called team members, but that's another story. Employees are less willing to engage in a hustle culture. It's an interesting name, hustle culture. That means we're getting after it. That means we're showing up to work and we want to win. That's the way it should be. Less willing to engage in a hustle culture, as 1 in 5 Americans admit to doing the bare minimum. 20% of the workforce admits to doing the bare minimum. It's got to be higher, right? Now, what's interesting is the article goes on to talk about stats from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, which says that Q1 of 2022, we experienced a 7.4% decline in productivity in the workplace, followed by a 4.1% decline in Q2. Now, I'm excited to see what the results will be for Q3 and Q4, but what they're calling this in the media right now, they're saying the trend is called quiet quitting. So they're not resigning, they're staying there. They're staying in the workplace environment, but barely doing anything. Now, the question is have you experienced that? This is one of the key reasons why we develop people to think and act like leaders. It is also another reason why we unleash the business warrior inside of our people. We don't want just business workers. We want business warriors. Business workers are necessary, but people have an ability to take their game to the next level. So you have to ask yourself a couple questions right now. Number one, am I experiencing complacency, a lack of drive in the workplace? Are you seeing it? And there's signs, and we'll talk about those in a second. And there's also resolutions, and we'll talk about those in a second. But you have to be on the lookout for this if you want to guard against it. Because business workers are needed, but business warriors are needed more right now. And that's why I wrote my book, Unleash Your Business Warrior. I wrote it specifically during this phase, and it'll be out soon. But I want to share with you a little bit from chapter 2. It's called Guard Against Complacency. It is the premier chapter for this moment in time right now, because status quo is not our code as business warriors. But we have to identify it. You may be thinking that you felt complacency in the workplace, right? You can tell that people aren't as driven or enthusiastic or excited to be there as much as they used to be. So there's 7 signs you want to look for. Number 1 is there's a lack of concern. They're just not concerned. Things are not urgent to them. They lack enthusiasm. They're not showing a genuine interest in what they do. Number 3 is they lack interest. They're just not interested in the work anymore. Number 4 is they take shortcuts. They don't run all the steps in the system. They run some of the steps. They'll take the shortcuts, which can lead to mistakes, which is another problem. Number 5 is disengagement. People are just disengaged. They've checked out. Number 6, frequent mistakes. You should notice these. Are the error ratios rising in your organization? And number 7, there's no initiative. If any of these signs exist, and for many business leaders, more than one of the 7 are existing at the same time, but if any of these signs exist, you could have a complacent environment, and we need to guard against it. And so you may say, okay, well, what can we do? Well, that's a great question. There are some things. I can't just tell you there's an article out there about how bad it is right now. We have to really take a look at how do we make complacency retreat in the organization. So for starters, you have to be a business warrior. It's a mindset, same as the quiet quitting is a mindset. Right? They're not resigning, they're quiet quitting. They have made a decision to show up, to be paid to do the bare minimums. So here's some things you can do. Because like me, that article probably bugs you, but it's a reality. It's happening right now across our country. Complacency is taking over in organizations. But there's 6 tactics, 6 things that you and your leaders, your business warriors can do to guard against complacency, to make it retreat. Because if you don't deal with it, if you don't protect your organization, guard against complacency and make it retreat, you will give an advantage to your competition, to your rivals. The first thing is, I'm going to suggest this right out of the gates, and I know you're probably already doing it, but this is imperative. You have to develop your people as leaders. Imagine if everybody showed up every day thinking and acting like leaders, you wouldn't have complacency in the workplace. So leadership development is critical. Not only do military warriors do it, but business warriors should do it as well. But here's 6 tactics that you could start right now. Number 1 is planning. Have a plan. Involve your people in the plan. Keep them in the loop on what's in the plan. Keep them informed. Well-informed people are golden. So have the planning process. Have a physical plan that you work off of each day, each week, each month, each quarter, each year. Have your leaders involved in the plan. Have your team involved in the plan. Number 2 is coaching. Have that one-on-one coaching with your team. Spend time. Invest time with your people. Get to know them. Get to know what their challenges are. Get to understand them. Also, reviewing. This is a great tactic. Review with them. Have time to review, go over their day with them, go over their schedule with them, identify what their needs are, how you can help support them. Support is huge. We want to transform complacency into urgency, but we have to have some tactics. Shadowing. This isn't hovering over your people. Shadowing is spending time with them at their workstations, observing them, understanding how other people are treating them, understanding how well they know the system. Most people just hope everybody does a great job, but we don't spend enough time shadowing, just pulling up a chair and observing, making sure that they have the resources necessary. Number 5 is disrupting, and that may sound like something negative, but it's not when it's done positively. Positively disrupt predictable routines. Break up the status quo. Break up the day-to-day grind, which can lead to complacency. Give them fresh perspectives on what they're doing. Involve some cross-training. Take them out of their station so that they can get fresh perspectives, not just on their position and how it affects your organization, but other positions as well. And lastly, recognize. We talk about this much more in the later chapters of this book, but recognizing, rewarding the behaviors you want to see. Case in point, if you have somebody exhibiting high levels of urgency, start a recognition program that recognizes urgency or enthusiasm or people who go above and beyond the call of duty. Instead of focusing all of your efforts on the people who are complacent, you have to spend some time recognizing the people who have that sense of urgency, who represent and exemplify what you want to see in your business. This is an opportunity for us. Anytime things are given a name, right, like quiet quitting, we have to identify solutions. The number 1 thing that you can do to guard against complacency is to get involved with your people. Don't hope for it to go away. You're going to have to fight like a business warrior, but you do not want 20% of your workforce, which I think it's more than that, to be complacent, to do the bare minimums. This is an opportunity for business warriors to rise up and encourage the people around them. All right. This is also our opportunity to make this the great new era in our business and go into 2023 strong.